Authority of Nigeria. Our seaports, and of course, this is not going to be easy, but as Bongo Sukwe will say, nothing good comes easy. So we have to be steadfast, and we should do whatever is possible within the limited resources that we have to make you better.
Thank you very much for staying with us. Like I said earlier in the program, we are taking a look at the scourge of drug abuse and the steps that have been taken by the government and other stakeholders to stem the tide. I've been joined today in the studio by Mr. William Someji, who is a youth advocate, and we are going to be doing this together today. It's great to have you join us.
My pleasure.
That was General Marwa, the chairman and CEO of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, who was at the National Assembly last week to see the Senate President and to seek the National Assembly's support in fighting the scourge of drug abuse. I mean, this is an issue that if we start to talk about, time would not be enough for us to discuss it. It's a very broad topic, and it's something that has been on for decades now. What are we not doing right? I mean...
Okay, actually, talking about drug abuse and substance abuse, first of all, it is a menace. It is a scourge that has eaten deep into the fabrics of our national existence. And as a matter of fact, anybody who loves Nigeria or loves humanity should actually be in the front burner, in the forefront, you know, fighting this scourge. However, regarding your question, what are we not doing right with regards to the fight against abuse of drugs or substances? I feel like what we're not doing right is we've not actually organized leadership in Nigeria. I'm tracing it to leadership. We've not really organized leadership in such a way that it benefits the citizens. I'll explain. The reason most times you find people engage in drugs, there are a couple of reasons people do this thing, but chief among the reason is when you find a government that has refused to provide the constitutional responsibility of catering to the welfare of the people. Most persons, because of the hardship they face in the country, they are finding tiny or temporary escape from the harsh realities of life, everyday life. So they want to, sometimes they take solace in these things, in these substances we're talking about. You know, to further buttress that point, if you go on the streets, you would see what I'm saying. You see people under scorching sun, intense sunlight. You see the person with either tobacco or marijuana or one form of drug or the other. These persons, if you go, you know, I give you a typical example. I was driving past sometime, you know, around the area 1 junction. I don't know if you know that place. It's a popular junction in Abuja. And I saw a man looking scrawny, looking gruff, you know, and all of that. And then under the intense sunlight, the man was smoking. I felt pity from the car. I had pity. I empathized with the man. But then, let me tell you something. If you take a moment to listen to him, if you take a moment to go close to find out why, you'll find out that there's a story behind that action, that suffering. And for me, I blame it on government.
But wait, blaming it on government at this point. I mean, when you talk about there are a couple of other reasons. Yeah, but this first one, yeah, definitely. Now, you are talking about the harsh realities of life, knowing fully well that whatever it is that you are abusing, the substance that you are taking in, it's at the detriment of your own health. I mean, how does it affect?
You need to come to the fundamentals. Now, what is actually drug abuse?
Yeah.
Drug abuse is the use or ingestion of certain chemicals for the purpose of for the purpose of creating pleasurable effect on the brain. So you see, you're trying to create an abnormal pleasure that is not inherent. It's not there. So you're trying to create it. What are you hiding from? But the decision to even take a substance to be able to feel a certain way means there's something you want to run away from. So that is why I traced it to leadership. In Nigeria, for instance, in our environment here, I can assure you that 80% of those who abuse drugs in this country, they do it because of either because of what they suffer from the harsh economic reality we have in the country, Then you can also be traced to, family crisis and all of that. A lot of persons, you can see a father who comes home drunk, probably because he's having it hot from his wife. There are a lot of reasons,
Yeah.
but,
Now, the CEO of ADLEA brought out the correlation between drug and substance abuse and insecurity, the issues of crimes, criminalities, rape, armed robbery, kidnapping, and all of that. How do we then begin to address these underlying issues?
Okay, first of all, I want to agree with him. The consequence of drug or substance abuse is quite overwhelming. You may not, as a matter of fact, know the extent to which you can go to commit evil until you're under the influence. Some of these people you see who commit one heinous crimes or the other, some of them wouldn't do so under a normal circumstance. They do this because there's a substance that has induced that action. So, for instance, you see these people you see the bandits, you see the Boko Haram terrorists. Some of these persons, just like the man rightly stated, before they commit these crimes, they take these substances. They abuse these substances. And by the time you do it, one of the effects we know is that it suppresses your sense of judgment. You're far removed from the ordinary life. Yeah. You become extra mundane. Do you understand? So this thing is something that happens. So conclusively, these people don't do it normally. There's an influence. So in order to address the issue, I feel like constant abuse of drugs leads to addiction. By the time you've abused drugs for a long time, it leads to addiction. A lot of persons are moving around in this country as drug addicts. So, unlike what you have in the United States of America and other developed countries, there are no addiction centers in Nigeria. So, but then the first basic step to addressing this issue is for government to begin to rejig policies now to save citizens from these harsh economic realities. If we start from there, once a society is good and profitable to all,
it will be profitable.
It will reduce. It will be
to a large extent.
Yeah,
Well, I totally agree with you on that. What would be admonition to youths out there who might still be caught up in this?
Well, I think what we should be addressing right now is the issue of addiction. A greater percentage of Nigerian youths are moving around as drug addicts. So, the decision once you find out that you're addicted to drugs already, I think the first basic step is realizing that this is a problem. You started it, Exactly. Then the first step is realizing it. Then the second step you have to take is the same way you made the decision to start taking it, you have to make the decision to stop, after which you proceed to seek medical counsel. There are a lot of there are common therapies around. Yeah. You talk about detoxification, you talk about cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and a whole lot of other ones. These are common treatments you can actually access under the supervision of a medical professional. But then the first thing is, once you've decided that this is a problem to you, it is your first basic step towards recovery. I'll give you a typical example. I don't know how much time I have, but then
I'll just have a few minutes to go. Yeah.
Few minutes. Addiction is a very terrible thing. Yeah. Because I used to have this classmate of mine back in secondary school. He was far, older than some of us, but we were in the same class, and he was really abusing tobacco. And then he abused it to the point that it became an addiction. And at that point, there's always a symptom. There's always a behavioral pattern for addiction. So this guy was abusing tobacco to the point that he said one day he was coughing. I asked him, "Why are you coughing? Don't you?" Because I knew he was smoking. Yeah. So I said, "Why don't you stop this? Maybe it's actually your problem." So then you know what he said to me? He said the moment he had tried to stop before, but the moment he stops, give him like 5 minutes, his brain will begin to scratch. No, he said his brain will begin to scratch. I said,
craving for more.
No, it's not even a crave. He said he will feel this terrible scratch in his brain. He will feel like to poke his hand inside his brain and begin to scratch it. And the moment he takes the substance, it douses.
I mean, so it's gotten to a stage
of a terrible addiction. So I told him the best step you have to take is to decide that the same way you started taking it is the same way you're going to stop. And by the time you do that, you find out that you're already on your path to recover.
All right, so that's a very nice and typical example. I mean, I'm sure we've all had an addiction once or twice in our lifetime. It might not be drugs, it might not be substance, it might be something else. Like Williams Omeji just said, the first step is to realize that you have this problem and then making a decision to actually stop it, and then from there you seek help and you go a long way in trying to address the issue. And the Senate President made a point, called on the government to ensure that they address the issues of poverty and unemployment, which are some of the reasons youth engage in these activities. And he also called for rehabilitation centers to be set across the country to help those who are already addicted and who might want to get out of it. Thank you for coming on the program today. You think you have a contribution or you have something to say, you can leave us a text message or a WhatsApp message on the number showing right there on your screen. And our social media handles are also there for you to follow us. Our Twitter and Instagram handles are at ITV_Abuja. Our Facebook page is at facebook.com/ITV Abuja. Until I come your way again next week, remember, for us to be the leaders of tomorrow's youths, we have to start today. Yes, youth can. I remain Osawona Me Ibizugbe. See you next week.